inkjet. That's all I do. I don't have a colour laser, so this is purely inkjet. Why make your own? Main reason I would say is if you want to customize or make, totally fictitious railroads or whatever you want to do, something on a personal level. It's not British Rail or Eddie Stolbart. It's just stuff that you want to do for yourself, and maybe a limited print run. Scale, well, we'll talk about any scale, because obviously you can make it any size, down from N gauge right up to O gauge, G scale, road vehicles, your own, as I say, you can make your own transport film. Illuminated signs, this is one I thought would good, the guy with the LEDs, you could actually make clear, transparent ones. So if you had a small bit of perspex, just put a clear decal over it, so just be whatever you're doing, like chip shop or whatever, shop sign. Materials, well, the basic, it's just inkjet, water slide, decal paper. You're into eBay, just type that in, and you'll get hundreds coming up. I bought a few from him, and the problem is when his paper comes, it's not got marked in the back clear or white. You can get them, on the internet, with the watermark in the back saying clear or white. But I think the proviso there is when you get it, just pencil it on the back. If you buy a pack of white, write white and just lightly on the back, so that you know what you're dealing with when you actually come to print the decals on the printer. Sorry. This is one here. That's the cheapest I could find on eBay just in the last week. 5 sheets for $5.25. That's pretty good for white or clear. They're normally near £2 a sheet. Depends where you go to buy them. They're clear lacquer. Now, the one I use is this one here, plastic coat. Over the years, it's an acrylic clear, and it does the job. But you've got to watch. Don't put it on too heavy. You just want 2 or 3 mist coats. Let it dry in between. To put a film on the top of your deck, when you print your decals off, do the clear lacquer. Halfers do one as well, which is probably cheaper. I've never used it, but according to onto YouTube, other people haven't used it, and it seems to be okay. Just as I say, don't be too heavy-handed. Just spray it on lightly, cup 2 or 3 times, and that should seal your water slide, your inkjet on to the paper. Setting solution, Decal Fix. It's quite a lot of people use Umbro Decal Fix. I use Cars Transfix. That's the only one I've had any experience with. So if there's people watching in today, it's had let me know, because I don't have any full experience. There's Revel. They do one. Revel's more probably for model aircraft, that kind of stuff. So the enamels, but microscale is American. All Americans favour about this one. You'll see that the more or less the blue one seems to be the kind of microset, which sets it, but they kind of contradict one another. One actually I think acts as a wetting agent, so you can put it onto to your model, and the microsol, I think it says it softens it, but so that it goes into all the rivets and seams, it pulls it down onto the model, gives it a good adhesion, ready for just varnishing. That's the one I've got, and it works fine. It's more or less just a wetting agent. So you could actually get away with just putting a drop of fairy, in some water. But this is the one. It doesn't leave any. There's no kind of scum on it. It's probably a clear, but it'll be made with distilled water anyway. Tools. You don't really need a lot of tools. There's not a great deal of equipment needed for the actual producing. As long as you've got a printer, an inkjet printer, and you can produce your own decals, that's the kind of tools you need just for cutting up the decals and doing applying them to the. This is the one that Craig, remember, on his talking about health and safety, he specified this type of ruler. I thought I had one, and I felt guilty, so I went and bought one this week. I've got one in order because I think sliced fingers is it's not a good thing to have. So I've bought a safety ruler. So well done, Craig. Tweezers. That's the type I would say. Use them, pointed ones, and they're curved, so as you can actually pick up the decal, put it in the water, and then transfer it over to the model, and then once it's softened, you can just slide off the backing sheet. So the tweezers are pretty handy because you don't want them sticking to yeah, you want some fine pointed, just sort of hold the decal while you transfer it from the water solution over to the model. Scalpels and craft knives. We're back to Craig again. Swan Morton. I think they're the kind of factory. If you used to go to the shows. Remember, you used to go to shows. Like, so you went to the model supplies. They had all the knives and all the Swan Morton blades. All the different sizes. I would say that the one with the long point type, because you want to, when you're cutting out your decals, you want to be precise, get it as close to the lettering or whatever it is as possible. So use a fine pointed. Those ones are quite good. Those are Stanley. They're more or less supposed to be meant to be disposable. You can buy about 3 for £2. So if you're not doing a lot of model, that's probably the way to go. Just for to have a nice sharp craft. You don't want a blunt one, so you want to have a fresh one every time you're cutting out your decals. Cutting mat. An A4, that's probably big enough because your paper's A4 anyway, so you're not going to actually cut anything bigger than an A4 sheet. A self-healing, they're pretty cheap. £3-4, I'm not sure. You go into the range, one of the model shops are online, eBay. Scissors. I'd suggest a small pointed pair. That's like an embroidery scissors, kind of manicure type ones, because you want, as I say, as far as the scalpel, you want to be able to cut fine, because you can cut your decals down with the knife and the ruler, but when you come to actually trimming around about them, you want quite a fine pair of scissors just to, and obviously good quality sharp ones. As I say, one-offs. I've done a van and a couple of other things. Just a kind of a thing I took a daft notion and said, well, I've got to make up the letter myself because it wasn't commercial available. So this is where it comes in handy when you can do it online, on yourself. This is my old employer's van. It was a Volkswagen Transporter. I used to drive about, and I took some photos when we were at a job one day, and then I started to look into all the different sizes. I tried to scale up the letters and the fonts. The fonts were the biggest problem because I couldn't find them on my computer, so I had to go in online and start downloading all sorts of fonts to match what was on his van, because as I say, it was like a weird it was a weird font. It was an old gauge transporter van I bought. I think it was a German ambulance or something, but I just wanted the white van, same shape, and with the lift and tailgate. That's what we had. So I stripped that back, and then that was my bear. That was for the model of the, what do you call it, the painter's van. So that was one I'd done a few years ago. That's what I've got left. I never took any photos of the model. I just gave it away, and I should have actually taken some photos. So that's all I've got. What's left of the thing. I can't even find the master sheet, so I don't. It's in an old CD somewhere. So that's That was the kind of thing I had to do, you know, to make up the wee van. Just another one I done. Those are wasp stripes, you know, for the back of a shunter. So yeah, I must have got it from the internet somewhere. So if anybody's looking for, you probably just put in wasp stripes, and you'll get another ones are warning signs. You know, if you're doing tankers, you know, or anything, even road vehicles, you know. So you're doing an ESO tanker, you'd maybe need a warning triangle or something, or railway, you know, railway tankers. That's one there. So that's what I intended to do. It was probably an old triangle Hornby shunter, and I was wanting to put wasp stripes on it, so I had to actually print off the thing. The one in the model in the right is it's just a Hornby one that's, you know, came factory. That was it. So that's what I was trying to emulate and copy that one. And that was, so logos. You can probably get most of the logos. As I say, this one I use as shell. So if you're wanting to do a commercial, you know, ESO or as I say, Eddie Stobart, anything you want, you just look online. You should be able to use them as long as you're not doing it for commercial purposes. You know, if you're just doing it for a one-off yourself, it should be fine to do. That's one of the ones that I blew up. Now I actually use paint. I'm not into graphics designing, so I'm not using Photoshop or anything that kind of stuff. So I find I can do most of the stuff I want, you know, editing fonts or logos on paint. I can actually touch it up, you know, and sharpen up the detail of it. The thing is, if you do go and look for logos, look for the highest resolution. Get to say the shell logo. Look for the pixel, so get the highest resolution you can. Because I think on the previous one, you actually see there's you know, they've got some of them have got the actual size of them, you know, on the resolution. Examples. There's some that I've made in the past. Just run them off. I was doing a police van. It's one of those ones that sits at level crossings. It's got the camera in it, you know, so to catch people that's going through the red light, you know, before the train comes. So I was trying to do one of those. The other ones are just for containers. The Stobart, and that's just for, you know, if you've got a container. What I would say, if you're doing that type with the container, stretch it out a wee bit, because the containers are corrugated. So when it drops into all the corrugations, it'll shrink it a bit. So actually, you allow for that. You just stretch your logo out, and it'll look normal, you know, once it's went into all the indentations. You know. There's more stuff, network rail, warning signs, all sorts of stuff you can do. As I say, there's what do you call it, registration plates. You know, so you get a yellow or white background and do your vehicles, you know, for your lorries, buses, trucks, whatever. Method, printer settings. Everybody's obviously different. You know, it depends the make of a printer. You know, is it photo quality? You know, so you try to do a high. You set your paper type for maybe gloss or semi-gloss and high quality color. Just play about it. As I say, it's trial and error. You're not always get it first time. The problem is, I think for what I've heard is you can oversaturate the colours and they can actually bleed into one another. So it's a balancing act between getting the sharpness, you know, the colours saturated, and having them before they actually start to melt into one another, because you've got too much ink in the printer. It's going onto a glossy paper, remember, so it can actually run together. So it's just, as I say, it's trial and error. Preparation. This is microgloss, and this is one of the things. This is the American stuff again. It does say Decal surface prep. I've been doing a wee bit of research. I don't know, some of the guys out there probably remember Johnson's Clear, and they stopped making it, and certain people put it online, and they were selling for about £30 or £40 a bottle because it was no longer made, and it became a hard to come by. You can get it in America. Americans make, I think it's some of its Pledge gloss finish for clothes. You know, it's about 750ml bottle, but it does the same job. You know, all the guys that do model aircraft, they use it. You know, they spray it on their model, and then they put on the decals, because, as I say, it gives it a good base, got a good gloss. You don't want to put your decals on a matte surface if you can help it, because it doesn't get the same adhesion. So you want a good gloss surface for the decals. Even, you know, commercial ones or homemade decals, you still want a good shiny surface for them to sit on. And then you can spray it matte after. Once you've got your decals on, you know, go down to a matte finish if need be. You know, if it's a steam logo or whatever, just, you know, change it later on. Once you've got all the decals on. Examples. This is one I just run this off the other day there. I took one of the wee network rail decals that I printed, and I said I'll just stick it inside a white band just to go through the routine. You see I've got cotton buds there. Some people use either tissue paper, or you can use maybe a white hanky, you know, just to mop up the excess water or decal fix. I tend just to use the cotton buds, just roll them over the decal, and it'll suck up all the excess moisture. Now, so I've got a dish of water, just lukewarm water I use. I don't use any, but what I do is I use the brush to put the transfix onto the surface of the van, and then put the damp decal on that and let it soak in. Once you've got the backing paper off, it'll slide off. There we are. That's it. That's me taking off the excess water decal fix. So that's just a cheap and easy one. This one's an old tender, and I've done that because you can actually see the rivets on it. You know, I was trying to make it so that you've actually used those decal sets, you know, those softening solutions, which will help the decal sit down onto the surface. You know, especially as I say, if it's a plane or anything with joints or rivets. And then you can see there that I just use a BR sign, but it sinks down top of all the raised rivets. You know, just so there's no air pockets behind it, and it's hold it tight. Varnishing. Well, Humber do clear matte varnish. You can either brush it on, airbrush it. Just whatever kind of level you want to do. If you're just doing a few models, it's probably hardly worth getting the airbrush out. Just give it a fine coat of just brush it on with a nice soft modelling brush. You can get it in gloss as well. To say if you wanted to do, if you're doing like something like a carriage, which will probably be quite polished inside, you know, so you probably want to do it once you've got your BR rounders on, just give it a coat of a gloss varnish, so it evens it out, so you don't have one shiny, one dull. You know, it's a giveaway. There we are. So any questions?
I have the airbrush. What would you clean your airbrush when you've used varnish through the airbrush?
Depends, Jim. What you're if you've got, if it's water based, you can just use hot, you know, soapy water. If it's an enamel you're spraying, just put like tups through it. You know, depends. As I say, it depends on what finish you've actually been working with. Most of the modelling paints now are actually water based. You know, so you can actually get. I mean, the companies like Umbro, they'll sell you some fancy cleaner to put through it. You know, airbrush cleaner, but at the end of the day, tups is done, and then just finish it off with just a wee bit soapy water, and then dry it off. That's fine for an airbrush.
Right, thanks, Robert.
Yep.
I had a go at
Yes,
trying
sir.
to make my own transfers. Now,
Yeah.
it worked with black on the clear perfectly, as you saw with the train that I showed
Yeah.
earlier.
Mm.
But I tried doing the same on a white background using colour, and it did exactly what you said. It just bled straight into the paper, and
Yeah.
basically.
That's the problem. Yeah.
So, is it the printer settings? I'm having to reduce the amount of ink that it's using.
Yeah,
Is
I
that
would
what
try
the
that
problem
first.
is?
I would try that first, Aeneas, because see that could be the problem. If you with too much ink, it's just getting a happy medium. It's hard to get. You know, to say the commercial ones, probably most of them done with lasers. You know, so there's no problem. I've got a laser here, laser printer. It does mono, so it does black, but it doesn't do any colour. So
Yeah.
I just got it for making PCBs.
Yeah, it's a Canon inkjet I've got, so I'll just keep playing around with the settings then.
Yeah,
see.
that's the best way. You know, just to say, just try it, and then your time that you soak it. You know, don't over soak the decal in the water. Just
No, this is before I'd even finished. Before I'd even got to sealing it on, it just bled off completely, and you couldn't read anything on it. So it's obviously just had too much ink on it. So I'll just keep playing about with it then.
It's trial and error. Yeah.
Cheers.
Robert, is that the product you were talking about?
Yes. It says clear, but is that Keith? Is that kind of milky when you pour it out that bottle? Is that not?
It is. Let me read it. It's probably not that clear on the camera. It says the improved formula clear is now called Pledge Multi-Surface Wax. It's a 750 ml job. And all you're using it for is decals. This will last you about 200 years.
That's true. I was watching a guy on YouTube about this. He was actually comparing them, and he reckons that why they come up with that new formula is some kind of EU regulation or some regulation that children, because the original clear was clear and it didn't have any smell. So I think they were frightened that kiddies would just take up the bottle and drink. No.
I'll trust you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got a kind of a perfume.
Perfume, that's right. That's what he said. Yeah.
And as you see, it looks a bit foamy, and it is kind of, it goes on milky. But I've tried it using an airbrush, and it's very, very useful because you can almost give any model which is kind of matte finish. Yeah. You can almost give it a gloss finish.
Yeah. So say the Americans have still got they're still producing over the Pledge gloss, floor gloss or something they call it, but you can get it sent over, but it costs an arm and a leg, So probably the one that we've got, we can get in the shops here. It's about £6-7, but you say it'll last for ages. But it's well worth, just giving the model a coat over before you actually put the decals. It's not ideal for finishing, but for a base, for your transfers.
Right, that's probably where I went wrong with that Dutch train that I was showing a minute ago, because on one side the decal's actually lifted again. Is there any way I can get that to stick back in, or should I just go back to the drawing board and redo it?
Yeah, you could try, but as I say, I've found that you can actually use, maybe put the decal set back, just give it, re-wet it and see if it'll go back down. And then once it dries,
right, okay, I'll give that a go.
A varnish sealer over it. So
yes,
it depends. It might be the surface you're working on, Aeneas. It might, if it's a matte. That could
well, yeah, I think if I remember rightly, it was actually a satin coat that I'd used on the loco, so it probably didn't adhere to it properly.
Yeah,
but as you say, it's trial and error.
Trial and error. Yeah, that is. Yeah.
I had a question, Robert.
Yes.
Once you've mounted it and you've given it a coat of lacquer, how robust is it from friction and so on? What I'm thinking of is not just if it's a model wagon, it's not getting touched a lot. I'm thinking it'd be very useful for putting labels on control panels or project boxes.
Oh yeah.
But how permanent is it under that?
I mean, if it was 2 or 3, give it, seal it with 2 or 3 coats of clear varnish, or gloss varnish. That should seal it on. That gives it a skin on top of it. It gives it a certain amount of protection, from say getting scratched. It's just depends how many coats. Obviously, you don't want, you give it too many coats, it's going to start yellowing. But just a couple of coats of clear varnish that seals it in. That's you're talking about handling. Well, if the wee tram I did for remember the tram that I done for the wee corporation tram that runs back and forward on the Merg layout. That's all got transfers. That was transfers I made myself and put them on. They're still on, So maybe I varnished. I can't remember if I varnished over. I must have done something, to protect them, from peeling off again. But that's the main thing. Give them a coat or two of varnish, and that seals them down.
Can I then ask a related question, which is how do you get them back off again? If you decide, is there some easy way, or do you have to sand it? Or
I think you can use, you can probably just use like IPA, isopropyl alcohol, or it's just what's the other one? I wouldn't go as far as a thinner. You could just try something that's alcohol based and just rub it, a cotton bud, and eventually you'll get the varnish and the decal off. You can't take them off. Sometimes, as Aeneas found out, sometimes they're hard to keep on. There's the adhesion they've got. They're very thin. One of the things I didn't go into detail was if you wanted to make boiler bands, I've got a DVD here. It's that one. Ian Rathbone. He makes lines up. He does it himself. He sprays on colours, like maroon or something, onto a bit of decal paper, and then he cuts them off in various widths to make boiler bands. So he's actually making a decal with paint. He's just actually instead of putting varnish and a printer ink onto it, he's just putting just spraying enamel on and then cutting them off in various widths. So there's different ways of doing it. I forgot to mention that one.
Robert, is there a different paper for a color laser? Do you have to use? Just be careful what you're buying.
I think they produce separate paper. I've got laser paper there, which I bought a while ago. I've never actually used it because my laser printer only does a mono. It only does black. But you can get. I don't know what the difference is. It's just all my paper is inkjet. The one that I've got here, that's all inkjet paper I've got sitting here. But the laser, I think you get special laser paper. As I say, what the difference is, I don't know.
Robert, I know that one.
Yeah, I know.
Laser, because laser's got the toner to fix the image, Brendan, and it's a completely different treatment. So if you try putting laser paper, will sometimes work with inkjet, but inkjet won't work on the laser paper.
Right.
So you just have to be careful with that one.
Right.
Just make sure you use the right one in the right.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks, David.
Robert, I have a question for you regarding the white versus the clear. The fact that bottle of Pledge was handy is because I was actually trying to make some decals during the week. Didn't work out quite as I'd hoped. I'm using exactly the same make of clear transfer paper that you have. And what it was, I wanted to put yellow lettering on a red van. So I made up the transfer with a red background and yellow lettering, and it looked fine on the transfer. But as soon as I put it onto the van, it completely disappeared.
Yeah, I had the same problem. I was doing the ones for the West Coast Railway Company. I've got them here, but
yellow on red,
yeah. But what I used white paper, but then I had to match the maroon, that was the hardest bit, was actually matching the maroon. So I could actually print yellow with a maroon background on the white paper, and that I tried. I was like you. I tried the clear to begin with. It just disappeared as soon as you put it on. The yellow just disappeared into the background. So you're with a dark background model, say VR maroon, whatever. you've got to use white paper. Even if you're doing the cab size in a loco, you've got to do it like white lettering on a black background. The problem is it says white deco, but it's a dirty white. It's not a brilliant white. That's the problem, you know. So you can maybe laser printing would be there's special printers that do white. You know, the guy that makes the, who do you call him? He took over the Decal company. I can't remember his name, but you've got to get a special. Is it OKI printer? It prints white. You can use like a white toner or white ink, and that's how they get the pure white lettering. You know, it's obviously we can't do it with inkjet. But as I say, I've done cab size and the numbers for the front of the loco just with a white deco paper, white numbers on a black background. Once you've weathered it, you know, it tones it down. So you could try that, Keith.
Thanks, Robert. So in real terms, a dark background is tricky to.
Yeah. I mean, the easiest cop out is just a white van. You can do anything with a white van because you can use the clear because then they'll show up against the white background. It's when you go down to a dark, you can see a red or brown. That's the problem. You're limited to using white deco paper, but the problem is matching your background.
Yeah.
If you're getting the spot on. I had countless goes with the deco paper before I got the West Coast locos done.
Right. Thanks, Robert.
Yep.
I don't know if this helps, but what I tended to do when I was trying to do the white lettering was I just printed it off first on an ordinary piece of paper just to see if it worked. That way you're not wasting the decal paper.
Yeah, that I do. I run off just very low quality settings to get my size as well, you know, for the scale, because you can never, until you actually do the letter, you know, the name or whatever it is, to get it the right size, you've got to just do a couple of dummy runs in plain paper before you commit to the decal paper. And yeah, that's right. Yes, yeah.
Hi, Robert. It's Craig here.
Okay.
I've got a thank you, an apology, an anecdote disaster, and a question. But thank you for all these tips. That's really inspiring and useful. The apology is sorry that I burnt a hole in your pocket with my talk, getting the ruler. That's usually reserved for chick burning holes in their pockets. So I'll put mine.
Yeah, smells like chicken.
The anecdote is I finished a model off, weathered, really happy. Decals, I use the Decal fix and actually soak it in the Decal fix, and it does the whole sucking around just a couple of drops in a tiny dimple on a paint set, and it soaks right in and the rivets pop through it. Really good. I was so delighted, and then put a top coat of semi-gloss on, sprayed from a can, and it turned to frost. Everything just went frosty. And I was using painter's acrylic paints underneath, and I presume there's an incompatibility there. So I was gutted after all the work. The solution, temporarily and not ideal, was actually to massage olive oil into it, which seemed to fill the gaps in the frosting. My problem is I still don't know what I did wrong. And my request for it, another tip is, when you're doing small individual decals, say numbering, renumbering and stuff like that, any tips on holding them all in a line without them, when you turn your back on them, the 6 is turned into a 9?
If you do renumbering, probably the best way is actually just to print them off as a block. Is that not feasible? No, because I tend just to use, if I was doing a cab side, you know, say 45623, you know, it's maybe an LMS loco, I would just rather than do the individual. I know you can do them, and you can maybe you just want to change one number. And if you've got a set of, I mean, I've got commercial ones that I can just take one number and just renumber a loco rather than have to do. But I prefer just to do it as a block. That way you don't have, you've got all the spacing, you know, all the spacing is correct. So I would just, especially, I mean, it'd probably be impossible to do it as the the number on the smoke box. I think you'd have to just do that as a strip of numbers, 4 or 5 numbers. No. The silvern, did it actually? You mean actually did it kind of curl up, or was that a reaction?
It was. Once I'd finished everything, I was looking great. Everything all dried properly, and then just thought I would do a blast with a semi, because I had glossed it, as you say, first to get the decals on, and then I was going to tone it down. I did tone it down completely with a semi-gloss top coat with a spray can. One of the main commercial ones, I think it was maybe Revel, and it just turned like it had been left out overnight here, and just turned to frost. I was just gutted.
Yeah, I've had
you'll probably find that what's happened is Revel do both enamel and water-based, and if you mix the two, that's exactly what happens. So you really need to be careful with what varnish you're using. I think that's possibly what's gone wrong.
Yeah.
We live and learn.
Yeah. I've had that thing happen to you. So say you can use too aggressive a finish on your, even when I was airbrushing models, you know, when you if you just happen to take a commercial, you know, car spray from Halfords and spray it on, it can actually just lift the paint if the paint's not compatible. If you've painted it with a model paint and you try to do something that's cellulose based, you know, just like paint stripping, which once you put a cellulose on top of an oil based paint, it'll just lift it off. You know, so as Aeneas says, I think that's its incompatibility. That's what it is. Yeah.
A lesson being tested first, eh?
Yes, that's, and some you're not too precious about. Yeah.
Robert, but one of the things I've found some people have made a mistake with is if they've just finished a model, they try and put the varnish on straight away. I prefer to leave it about 30 minutes between coats so that it's got a proper chance to dry. You've got less chance of getting a reaction and getting flaking and what have you after your finished product.
Yeah, that's it. A lot of people, as you say, are impatient. They'll not leave it overnight. You know, as I say, a lot of the paints I find with Umbro paint, it needs some more a UV curing. You know, because I know when I was painting stuff, buses or whatever, I sat them at the window for about, you know, when it's sunny, and let the UV, you know, actually cure the paint, because you could paint a model, put it in a dark corner, and it'll sit there for about a week and it'll still be soft. So you actually a lot of the modern paints actually need UV curing. So as you say, you know, give it a good 2 or 3 days in a light position to let it harden off before you apply anything else. That's right, Trevor. Yeah.
You can pick up a wee UV light bulb for about a £5. I just knocked this up to sort of cure like some 3D prints and just sort of fit that into a box. So something like that's easy enough, you know, £8 or something to put together with the bits and pieces, and you've got your own wee UV curing system.
Yeah, that's a good idea, because as I say, in the winter time we don't have much sunlight, so that's a really good suggestion.
Yeah, just cardboard box, hole in it, the light fit, screw into it, and then you can just put your model in there and bathe it in the UV light.
Yeah.